Welcome to the video, How I Help Men Prevent Divorce, Part 8, Taking Ownership. So today we're talking about ownership and why most men approach it the wrong way during a marriage crisis. So if your wife has said that she wants a separation, she wants space, or she wants a divorce, men usually swing between two extremes. Okay, either they become extremely defensive or they collapse into emotional shame, which results in begging, pleading, and really the behaviors that are submissive behaviors that blocks any chance of reconciliation. And as I said, defensiveness also blocks any chance of reconciliation because you can never see the real problems. Because if you can't look at the problems, if you can't understand the problems, if you're unwilling to look at the problems, you can't fix them. So neither of these situations helps reconciliation. As I said, defensiveness will block any growth and any chance at reconciling. And the shame and submissive behavior also blocks growth and possible reconciliation because it turns the entire process into emotional self-destruction, and it further damages the emotional safety and will destroy attraction further. So healthy accountability is not weakness, okay? It's emotional maturity. So you need to really look at this objectively. When she says, I want space, separation, or a divorce, why is she saying that? Now, you can ask her. She might be very direct about that. She might be indirect. She might just say it's a feeling. I'm not in love, or all the typical responses. So it's really going to be up to you to take a step back, give her that space, and start looking at how have I got to this position. And you need to take on the ownership in regards to how I got to this position, because she wants out of the relationship. If you want to save the relationship, if you want to save the marriage, you have to go through this process and start really looking at how have I gotten, how have I contributed to where we currently are, okay? You cannot save your marriage if you don't focus on yourself and take personal accountability here. I'll repeat that. You cannot save your marriage if you don't focus on yourself and your personal accountability. Reality is going to be your best judge. What is reality telling you? It's telling you that she wants out of the marriage. There's a problem. You have to identify that problem and you need to fix that at the core. That's what we have to do. So why does taking on ownership matter? Okay, if your wife does not, your wife obviously does not want to be in the relationship. Okay, so there's a serious problem. But what she's doing right now when she says she wants space, separation, or divorce, she's not looking for everything to be fixed overnight, okay? She needs evidence. She needs evidence that you truly understand the deeper behaviors and dynamics that have damaged the relationship over time. She needs evidence that those behaviors are changing consistently over time. Not through words, not through promises, not through conversations, not through big emotional speeches, through consistent behavior, okay? So at the moment when she drops that space, separation, or divorce bomb on you, okay, you need to be calm. You need to stay grounded. You need to make sure that your emotions are regulated. You need to start consistently leading yourself and become very self-aware of your behaviors, especially the behaviors that have got you to this position. Because if you don't fix those behaviors that have got her to the point where she feels hopeless about the marriage, you obviously can't save the marriage. So the key here is taking on that ownership. And it's a tough pill for a lot of guys to swallow. That's the first step here, really, extreme ownership. So trust rebuilds. The trust can start to rebuild in the relationship when your behavior changes repeatedly over time, and a new environment is created by yourself because you've made identity change. That's going to be a tough process to go through, because her character bias of you is that you're a specific negative way about the whole relationship. She's going to see you through that negative lens. Okay, so you have to work through that. It's going to be hard. It's going to be, she's not going to believe you change. She's going to believe it's all a mask. And it may be a mask. So that's why there's no way around this. You can't bluff this. You can't fake this. This has to be genuine, real change. And the way the genuine, real change begins is by taking on that ownership of where I'm at, why I got here, what are the problems, what do I need to focus on, and how consistent can I be with that change? Extreme ownership. Now, when you have relationship conversations, and I strongly advise you to not be bringing these up early on in the reconciliation process. Okay, when she said that she's done, the last thing she wants to talk about is the relationship regarding the problems. So there's going to be a period of time, from my experience over with coaching over 1,000 guys here, is that you need to be patient in giving her that space and creating an initial foundation of safety. And I talk about it in the previous series, in this series, we're up to part 8, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. Really go over that dynamic that's required to give her that space and let her process things. So then she's willing to talk about things later, or she brings things up, and you can start moving through the through the negativity and all the venom she spews out of you. So when she does that, when she starts opening up again, okay, and you've taken on extreme ownership, you need to make sure that you're not, apologizing constantly. Okay, there'll be a time to make sincere apologies later. Okay, when the safety is much more established and she starts trusting you more, that's when you can double down on the apologies. At the moment, it's all words. It's all to her. It seems like lies. It seems like manipulation, and it's just not going to be effective at this time. So another part of this is what to stop doing here is when she opens up about the problems, it's about stop emotionally collapsing into every conversation. Okay, and what that means is that you don't feel shame, guilt about your behavior. It's a matter of owning it and then, okay, let's change it. Don't stay in victimization, because the victim mindset is very, very unattractive. Okay, and it's the opposite of taking on ownership. It's really about victimization will leave you with no hope in reconciling. So stop playing the victim. It's a matter of now understanding what's happened, what you've done wrong, and let's move forward from that position. Okay, stop trying to force forgiveness. Stop trying to make force outcomes to occur. What has to happen is you have to let the outcome come to you, and you do that by focusing on the process of your behavior and consistent in the changes that are required. So you go from being defensive, playing the victim, falling into shame, guilt, and begging and pleading, to stepping back, giving her that space, okay, letting her process things. You being consistent with being a father, showing up with your responsibilities, start leading yourself, and then she will slowly start opening up about the problems. Don't do these behaviors, okay? You don't excessively ask for forgiveness. You don't try to force conversations, force outcomes, over apologizing. You don't withdraw when she starts talking about the problems. Okay, strong accountability is quiet, it's calm, it's steady. When you take on that accountability, okay, you don't need recognition for that. So you have to stop seeking validation, stop seeking reassurance. The way that your accountability shines through is through one way: visible, consistent behavioral change. So to get to that position, though, you have to actually take on the ownership here. If you want to save your relationship or your marriage, you have to take on ownership. So how do we implement this now? You have to start by honestly assessing your patterns and your behavior in the relationship. And you might be very aware of what those problems are. The key here is to not fall into victimhood. It's a matter of taking it on board, understanding why you're in this position, and let's start from here. Let's start fixing those problems. So where have you been reactive? Where have you been defensive? Where have you been emotionally unavailable, controlling, needy, disconnected? Remember, if your woman feels emotionally disconnected in the relationship, eventually the relationship will end. And the reason why she feels emotionally disconnected or a lack of emotional safety is from your behavior, your reactivity, your defensiveness, your neediness, you're withdrawn, you're disconnected. So what we need to do is we need to focus on behavioral change instead of emotionally convincing her with long conversations. Let your changes, your growth become visible over time, being consistent with that. Stay patient, stay grounded, and understand this one principle. Real accountability means changing consistently, even when forgiveness, reassurance, or outcomes remain uncertain. The definition of masculinity is to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. And your real growth, the real changes required, should not be conditional on her response. It needs to become part of who you are. Identity-based change. So here's the key points in the recap from this video. Now, most men become either defensive or emotionally collapse into shame during a marriage crisis. So when she says, I want space, separation, or a divorce, most guys are going to be either extremely defensive, so arguments explode, or guys are going to collapse and they're going to become emotionally submissive and needy, desperate, clingy, begging for another chance, operating from shame. So neither defensiveness nor shame helps rebuild the relationship. Healthy accountability is what's required. Emotional maturity. Okay, we need to remain grounded through this situation, through this initial, what we call the gut punch or the slap. Okay, where she's dropped this bomb on you. She wants space, separation, or divorce. That's where your reconciliation process begins. You can make things way worse, or you can make things way better. And healthy accountability is a huge part to this. She needs evidence of real behavioral change. Not promises, not conversations, not big speeches. She needs to trust that you can rebuild the relationship through your behavior, through calmness, consistency, emotional regulation, and self-awareness. So over-apologizing, trying to force forgiveness, seeking validation for your growth are huge mistakes. Real, genuine accountability is shown through consistent action over time. So focus on changing behaviors without, expecting a result from her, and without attacking yourself for, falling into blame, guilt, and shame. What's happened has happened, but now we're making change, and let's focus on that. We can't change the past, but we can definitely change the future. Okay, so mature growth, being a man, continues. The growth continues, even when the outcome remains uncertain. So if she's cold, she's distant, she's checked out, you remain steady through the process of change. Even if she comes close and she says, I want to work on this again, I love you and I'm never going to leave. There's a serious problem. You need to remain focused on the changes. So if she pulls away or comes closer, you stay steady on the change required. This is extreme ownership. So healthy accountability, extreme ownership, means honestly recognizing harmful patterns without becoming defensive or consumed by shame. Rebuilding trust comes through consistent behavioral change, emotional stability, and patience, not emotional convincing or reassurance seeking. True growth becomes visible through actions repeated over time. You can't change a behavioral issue by talking about it with your wife. She needs to see evidence. And every time you have an interaction, you are either building evidence towards divorce or confirming her decision that she wants a separation, she wants space, or a divorce, or you're supplying evidence for the contrary. You're improving, you're changing, you're making the environment more positive. That's what you need to focus on. So take on extreme ownership, identify the problems that's got you to this position. Don't fall into shame. Don't fall into defensiveness. Take on the ownership. Look at your side of the street and say, I'm going to clean up my side of the street and see what happens. Be consistent with that. and good luck.